Walk to the back of almost any used car forecourt in Britain, past the gleaming SUVs everyone is crowding around, and you will find them. Rows of dull, sensible, unloved saloons and estates gathering dust, dropping in price week after week because nobody wants them. The dealer is quietly desperate to shift them, and here is the joke that the fashionable crowd at the front of the lot will never get. Those unwanted, dirt-cheap cars at the back will still be running, faithfully, a decade after the shiny things they walked past have been scrapped. By the end of this video, you will know the 5 dirt-cheap cars quietly rotting on British forecourts right now that will outlast almost anything you can buy new, exactly why they are so cheap, and the one thing you must check before you grab one. Because one of them is a genuine premium car for the price of a banger, another will comfortably do 250,000 miles, and every single one of them is cheap not because it is bad, but because it is unfashionable. And unfashionable, if you are smart, is exactly where the bargains hide. The crowd at the front of the forecourt is paying a premium for image and buying fragility. You are about to learn how to walk to the back and buy the opposite, durability for pennies. Let me explain the strange logic that makes this possible, because it is the key to everything. A car's price on the used market has almost nothing to do with how good or how durable it actually is. It is set by fashion, by demand, by what everyone else happens to want this year. And right now, everyone wants the same thing, a high-riding SUV or a crossover, ideally with a badge that impresses the neighbours. That single, powerful trend has crushed the value of the saloon, the estate, and the sensible executive car, the very body styles that, as it happens, were often built to the very toughest standards of all, because they were the cars that did the hard miles. So you get a genuinely bizarre situation where a bulletproof car, one with another 150,000 miles left in it, sells for less than a fragile, fashionable little crossover with a tiny turbo engine that will be sitting in a workshop before its finance is even paid off. The market is pricing these cars on desire, not durability, on image, not engineering. And that gap, the space between what a car is actually worth and what it is genuinely capable of, is the single greatest bargain in British motoring, and it grows wider every year that the SUV craze rolls on. Today, I am going to show you exactly where that bargain lives, and how to walk away with it while everyone else is queuing for something that will let them down. Here is the first thing you need to understand, because this matters more in Britain in 2026 than ever before. The modern car everyone is rushing to buy is, in many cases, a fragile thing. We have spent this whole channel documenting it. The wet belts that destroy engines, the diesel particulate filters that clog on our short journeys. The tiny turbocharged 3-cylinder engines work to the very edge of their tolerance. The touchscreens and control modules that fail and cost a fortune to replace. That is what fashion is buying right now, dressed up as progress. Meanwhile, the cars on this list were mostly built in a simpler, tougher era, or fitted with the proven, robust engines that came before the worst of the cost-cutting arrived. They were designed to cover enormous distances in the hands of reps who lived on the motorway, taxi drivers who never switched them off, and families who kept them for a decade, and they were built to survive every mile of it without complaint. So the modern market has created a perfect inversion, one that almost nobody has noticed. The expensive, desirable cars are frequently the fragile ones, and the cheap, unwanted ones are the tough survivors. The average car on our roads is now 9.7 years old, the oldest figure ever recorded, which tells you people are keeping their cars far longer than they used to, and the cars genuinely worth keeping that long are precisely these overlooked, unglamorous workhorses. You just have to be brave enough and informed enough to buy the car nobody else at the front of the forecourt wants. I want to be transparent about how this list was built, because plenty of car advice chases whatever is trendy. This does the opposite. It is based on the long-term reliability data from the Warranty-Wise and What Car surveys, the ones that track real faults years into ownership rather than in the first flush of newness. The high mileage records logged with the DVSA and the specialists who analyse them, showing which cars genuinely rack up the miles and keep going. The residual values that reveal what these cars are really selling for on the ground, not what anyone hopes. And the independent mechanics who will tell you, honestly and off the record, which old cars they would happily own themselves and put their own family in, and which they would run a mile from. That last source is the most valuable of all, because a mechanic has no badge to protect and no image to sell, only the memory of what keeps coming back through the workshop door. No manufacturer paid for a word of this, and frankly no manufacturer wants you buying a 15-year-old car for £2,000 when they would very much rather sell you a shiny new one on a 4-year finance deal. Here are the 5. Before we start the countdown, hold one idea in your head, because it is the thread running through every single entry. Each of these cars is cheap for a reason that has nothing to do with how good it is, and everything to do with how it looks to the neighbours. Strip the badge snobbery and the fashion away, look only at the engineering and the mileage these cars can cover, and the price tags start to look like typing errors. That is the opportunity. Number 5, the Ford Mondeo. And this is the purest example on the list of a car killed stone dead by fashion rather than by any fault of its own. For decades, the Mondeo was the default British company car, so common on every motorway and in every office car park that it became a national punchline, the very definition of ordinary middle-of-the-road life. There was even a phrase for the average voter, Mondeo man. And then the company car driver was handed the keys to an SUV instead, and the Mondeo quietly died, discontinued and unwanted, and now the survivors sit at the back of forecourts for astonishingly little money, ignored by everyone walking past. But here is what the badge snobs miss entirely. The Mondeo is a genuinely excellent car, spacious enough to swallow a family and all their holiday luggage without a roof box, comfortable over long distances, and one of the best driving cars of its kind ever made, a car engineers genuinely loved. As an estate, it is cavernous. I will be honest with you, because I always am on this channel. The Mondeo is not quite as bulletproof as some of the cars further up this list, and the diesels in particular can suffer with their dual-mass flywheels, their turbos and their particulate filters, so you buy a well-serviced petrol or a carefully maintained diesel and you check that history like a hawk. Do that homework and you have an enormous, capable, comfortable, fine-handling car for the price of a tired little super mini. Precisely, and only because the world collectively decided it was boring and moved on to something taller. Boring is cheap, but boring, as this entire list proves, is also very often extremely good, and the Mondeo is the perfect proof that a car killed by fashion can still be a wonderful thing to own. Number 4, the Volvo V70 and its rugged, jacked-up cousin, the XC70. Volvo built these in the era that made the company's name for durability, before the giant touchscreens and the finicky plug-in hybrid hardware that trouble some of its otherwise excellent modern cars. This is a car engineered with restraint rather than ambition, mechanically robust in a way modern cars have forgotten how to be, with an all-wheel drive system on the XC that works without a computer constantly babysitting it, and far fewer layers of fragile electronics waiting to go wrong. There is no touchscreen managing the basic business of driving, no software that quietly learns your habits and then bricks itself, just solid Swedish engineering built to do decades of family service. It is the estate the countryside quietly runs on, the one that outlasts the German rivals costing 3 times as much, and you can find good ones for a couple of £1,000s. The honest caveat is that an old Volvo is not immortal simply because it wears a Volvo badge. Maintenance discipline is everything with these cars. The parts can cost a little more than a mainstream brand, and the 5-cylinder engine's like a drink of fuel. But a well-kept V70 or XC70 is a car you can put your family in and trust on a motorway at 70 for years to come. Safe, solid, hushed, and endlessly practical. And the SUV crowd who sail past it are doing you a quiet favour by keeping the prices flat on the floor. Number 3, the Skoda Octavia, and this one is beloved by the people who know exactly how tough a car really is, taxi drivers. Government data shows nearly 2,000 Octavias still on British roads with more than 240,000 miles on the clock, which is about the highest compliment a car can ever be paid, and taxi drivers do not keep buying a car that lets them down because for them a breakdown is lost income. It is built on the same proven platform as the Volkswagen Golf but is roomier and noticeably cheaper, with an estate boot of 640 litres that shames most family SUVs, and the 2-litre diesel version uses an engine shared across half the Volkswagen Group's range. One of the best documented, most durable European diesel engines ever made, an engine that has covered astronomical mileages in countless cars. You can buy a higher mileage diesel for around £2,500 and a tidy petrol for £4, and it will keep going long after fancier, prouder cars have given up and gone to the crusher. The honest caveat is to buy the right one carefully. Check the service history religiously. make sure any automatic gearbox has been properly maintained, and walk away from a diesel that has clearly been thrashed around town with a neglected particulate filter. Get a good one, and the Octavia is quite simply one of the most sensible purchases you can make in the entire car market, which is exactly why the people who drive for a living swear by it. Number 2. The Toyota Avensis. The car so determinedly unexciting that it has become almost invisible, and that invisibility is your opportunity. This was the default minicab, the motorway rep car, the sensible family saloon nobody photographs, and it is dirt cheap precisely because it stirs no emotion whatsoever. But the data tells a very different story from the yawn its styling provokes. Independent high-mileage analysis rated the Avensis the single best high-mileage used car you can buy, giving it a potential lifespan of 250,000 miles, and describing it, perfectly, as a no-nonsense choice for people who simply want a car that works. 250,000 miles. That is more than most people will ever drive in a lifetime, in a car you can buy for the price of a decent sofa. The petrol engines especially are close to unbreakable. Timing chains and simple proven engineering, and the whole car is put together with the quiet obsessive Toyota durability that no rival has ever quite managed to copy. The honest caveat is that the later 2-litre diesels can suffer the usual particulate filter and injector troubles if they have lived a hard urban life, so the safe money is firmly on a well-kept petrol. Buy one of those, keep the oil fresh, and you have a car that will start faithfully every single morning, ask for almost nothing in return, and very possibly outlive your interest in owning it, all for the price of a long weekend away. It is the automotive equivalent of the boring friend who turns out to be the only one you can truly rely on. And number 1, the one that will genuinely surprise you and might just change how you think about buying a car forever. An older Lexus, the IS or the GS saloon. Stay with me here, because this is the closest thing to a genuine secret in the whole used car market, the kind of thing people who work in the trade quietly buy for themselves and rarely advertise. Everyone knows a used luxury car is a terrifying prospect, a bottomless pit of 4-figure bills. Everyone, that is, except the small number of people who have worked out that this one particular badge breaks the rule entirely. Lexus is Toyota's luxury division, and it is consistently rated one of the most reliable car brands in the entire world, year after year, more dependable than any German premium marque you could name. And yet, because British buyers are quietly terrified of the running costs of a posh Japanese car they do not fully understand, older Lexus saloons sell for a fraction of what an equivalent BMW or Mercedes commands. Think about how mad that is. The same money buys you a stressful, fragile old German barge or a serene, bulletproof Japanese one, and most people pick the German because the badge is more familiar. You can buy a genuinely luxurious, beautifully built, supremely reliable Lexus IS or GS for a few £1,000s, a car that feels special, as one reviewer put it perfectly, without demanding that you treat every dashboard noise as a financial emergency, which is exactly what living with an old German saloon can feel like. The hybrid IS 300h even sips fuel while it pampers you, and Lexus dealers are famous for looking after their customers. The honest caveat is that the pure petrol version's like a drink. The rear seats are cosy rather than cavernous, and parts, while rarely needed, can cost a touch more than on a humble Toyota. But for the money, there is simply no more sensible way to own a proper luxury car in Britain, and almost nobody has worked it out. That is exactly why it tops the list, and exactly why it stays cheap. So before I give you the rules, I want to ask you something directly, and I read every reply. Tell me in the comments the most reliable cheap car you've ever owned, the unglamorous one that simply refused to die no matter what you threw at it, because I suspect the comments are about to become a love letter to boring cars, and every one of those stories is worth more than a showroom brochure. And tell me honestly, would you actually buy the unfashionable one, or does the badge and the image still matter to you too much to park a dull saloon on your driveway? Be truthful. That little flicker of hesitation you just felt is exactly why these cars are so cheap, and exactly why they are such an extraordinary bargain for the people who manage to get over it. Here are the rules, because buying a cheap older car well is a genuine skill, and it is the difference between a bargain and a headache. Rule 1. The engine matters far more than the model, so for any of these, choose the tough proven version, usually the naturally aspirated petrol, or the well-known durable diesel, and be very wary of a neglected diesel with a clogged particulate filter, because that is the one failure that turns a bargain into a money pit. Rule 2. On a cheap car, service history is everything. Absolutely everything. Because a well-maintained example of any car on this list will comfortably outlast a neglected example of a car half its age. So you're buying the folder of receipts every bit as much as the car itself. No history, no deal. Rule 3. Spend £100 to £200 on an independent pre-purchase inspection before you hand over any money. Because on a car this cheap, it is the single best value money you will ever spend, turning a nervous gamble into a confident, informed decision, and giving you the ammunition to walk away or haggle hard. Rule 4. Do not just trawl the polished approved used forecourts, because the very best bargains hide on the online marketplaces and with private sellers, the careful older owner selling a low-mileage one-owner car for a song because they simply want it gone. And Rule 5. The mindset that unlocks all of it. Buy the unfashionable car on purpose with your eyes wide open because you're quite literally being paid, in the form of a much lower price, to ignore what your neighbours and your colleagues might think of the badge on your driveway. Now the arithmetic, and it is almost comical once you see it laid out. Option 1. The fashionable choice. You buy a trendy used crossover with a tiny turbo engine for, say, £12,000, very possibly on finance so you're paying interest on top, and somewhere down the line it presents you with a wet belt, a clogged particulate filter, or a failed turbo, a 4-figure bill on a car that is already shedding value fast and that everyone else will also be trying to sell in a few years. Option 2. The smart choice. You buy a £2,000 to £4,000 Avensis, Octavia, Mondeo, or Volvo in cash, with nothing to pay each month. A car that has already done every penny of its depreciating, so it barely loses any more, that any local garage can fix cheaply because it is simple and the parts are everywhere, and that will run for another 150,000 miles without drama. Put the two side by side and it is not close. You spend a quarter of the money on a car with twice the useful life left in it, and you keep £8,000 or £9,000 in your pocket, money that could clear a debt, build a rainy day fund, or simply stay yours. The dirt cheap car is not the compromise, it is the intelligent answer, hiding in plain sight at the unfashionable end of the forecourt while everyone fights over the shiny, fragile things at the front and pays through the nose for the privilege. So here is the bottom line. These 5 cars are rotting on British forecourts for one reason, and one reason only. Fashion has moved on and left behind some of the toughest, most sensible cars ever sold in this country, at prices that make no rational sense whatsoever. They are not cheap because they are bad. They are cheap because they are unwanted, and unwanted is not the same thing as unworthy, however much the market wants you to confuse the two. In a world where the desirable cars are increasingly the fragile ones, riddled with wet belts and clogged filters and touchscreens that die, the single smartest move you can make is to turn your back on the crowd, jostling at the front of the lot, walk to the dusty, dependable survivors at the back, and buy the car that everybody else was simply too proud to consider. Let them chase the badge and the image, and let them pay for it twice, once at the till and again at the garage. You take the quiet, unglamorous car that actually lasts, and you keep the change, and you drive it for a decade while they are already shopping for their next disappointment. That is not settling. That is winning. Quietly. The best car on the forecourt is almost never the one with the crowd around it. It is the one gathering dust in the corner, waiting for someone who did the maths. If this video changed how you see the used car market, subscribe so you never miss the next one, and send it to anyone about to overpay for something fashionable and fragile when a better car sits ignored nearby. That is all.